Hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' week this week?
Good. I got to drink gravy with a straw.
Very good. Yeah, you said you were going to do that. Okay, so Thanksgiving went well.
It was, had family from Colorado here, people I haven't seen in a really long time. Made me miss some other people that I haven't seen in a really long time. But it was just an enjoyable Thanksgiving, and everybody got through it without a whole lot of trauma. So,
yeah. How about you, Andy? Any fist fights over Thanksgiving?
Jabbing back and forth.
Yeah. Nobody knifed anybody or shot at anybody to drive by.
Took out a couple pistols, but it didn't get to blasting. No, family came up from home. Good time. We were joking with each other. There was some political banter, but it was all in fun and just a little bit. We really did stay away from the topic. I really don't speak to my family members about that stuff because they're just. They're as hard-headed as I am, and so it's just not going to go anywhere worthwhile. So we play with each other about it. Thank God we can do that because it's family, we know where each other's hot buttons are. So there was a little tiny bit of just playful banter, but nothing serious. And I probably started a little bit of it a couple different times.
Well, of course, Just it's Andy.
Timing.
That's how
is
Andy
so
works.
important.
Yeah. Thanksgiving was good. Had all the family over, like I said we were going to. We kind of stay away from those political discussions. I think it's kind of funny because my mom had mentioned as everybody was coming in the door, hey, remember, we're staying away from politics. And so then my nephew used that as an opportunity to ask every political question to everybody that he possibly could. Hey, Uncle Lance, how do you feel about the Trump election? It's like, and that's his nature, to be facetious and stuff and love him and think it's great, in every way. And then from there, just really, the mantra in my family is this. It's that number one, you love your family. Number two, you love your neighbor. And number three, you love your community. And if you can figure out a way in which you agree with individuals in those three categories and you can work together, then that's what you should be doing rather than finding reasons to fight about it. If I don't agree, if I know that my neighbor has a Harris Waltz sign out in front of it or a Trump sign out in front of it and I differ on their political ideology, I don't need to go over there and tell them why they're wrong. But if I see that they need some help of some kind, then it's my responsibility to go over there and say, hey, neighbor, can I help you out? So,
can I help you pull those signs out and put them in the trash?
Election's over. They should be gone now anyway.
I put mine up on the porch, so they're up there on the porch. You drive by, you can still see them. but no,
a little salty.
Oh yeah, but once again, we talk about on this program. Even though we, all three of us, may agree on a lot of things, we don't agree on all things, and it doesn't affect our relationship. There's an element of maturity there. But
I've spent some time thinking about this. And what we usually don't agree on is the process of how to get there.
Agreed.
Ooh.
Right?
It's an interesting take.
Because a lot of the times at the root of it, we really want the same thing. It's just we have different ideas of how we need to get to that goal.
Yeah. And a lot of platitudes, everybody wants for our country's economy to be good and everybody wants for us to live in a free society and everybody wants for us to have our constitutional protected rights and all of these things. It's just how we interpret that in our own mind's eye, life experience, and then, of course, the mode to get there. Okay, so, Chad, what is going on locally? I know that I heard some pop going on.
So you were awake at that point in time, and it was like a mile and a half from your house, and you heard it. Okay. Pardon me. I had to throw some
Don't
sarcasm
be a critical
out there.
thinker, Chad.
I heard it was.
We're laughing about something. It's not funny, but I'm wondering, did they? I haven't heard anything come out yet. Do they got any suspects? Have they figured anything out?
I have not checked with police to find out what has transpired since Thursday morning. But on Thursday morning, there was a drive-by shooting in which no one was hurt or killed. And, I mean, that's kind of important.
That's why we can laugh about it.
Yeah, that's why we can laugh
Yeah.
about it. They found
Right.
some bullet holes in some cars and some shell casings in the street. And, you know, it's like nobody was really hurt. I mean, somebody's got a bullet hole to fix in their door. But when you think about what could have happened, that's pretty minor. And at the time, there were no arrests made or anything like that. They were still trying to find people. So that happened over on Southeast 4th. I know some people who live in that neighborhood, and they didn't even know it happened, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so that was very early in the morning on Thanksgiving morning.
On Thanksgiving. So interesting, the timing on these things. People have so much hurt in their hearts and don't realize it. And gosh, man, I just got to love on those people.
And don't forget, I mean, if there's a message there, you know, a message that I think needs to get out there, the holidays are incredibly stressful. Whether you want to admit it or not, they are incredibly stressful. And there's dozens of reasons that they can be that way. You know, for years, you know, on social media, it's inevitably some friend of mine will throw up there on Thanksgiving Day that old meme. It's like ruin Thanksgiving in 5 words or less. I have a standard answer. I always use the same one. It usually gets some laughs, and it's the mother-in-law is coming. Okay.
She doesn't listen to the program,
Right.
does she, Chad?
No. But I mean, it's
Next
like
Thanksgiving
About to
gonna
find
suck.
out.
I'm gonna wait all year long till next Thanksgiving on that one.
Can we be straight? This is a really standard stand-up comedian trope.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, the mother-in-law is coming. And honestly, I don't think any of the comedians who use that stuff have that mother-in-law. They just know it's funny.
Well, the movie writing is good around that topic. I mean, how
Right,
many holiday movies are
exactly.
built around those family dynamics?
But
Yeah,
that's a stressor.
That's true.
That's a stressor. You know, you've got family that is coming that you haven't seen in a long time. Some of them you may not like. Now let me be very clear. The family that I had come from Colorado, I love those people. I love them with everything I got. And it pains me every year at the end of the year when I'm like, man, we didn't go to Colorado again this year. So that's not me, but but it's still a stressor. When they come, it's still a stressor. You got to find a place for them to sleep. You got to provide
Extra
and help.
food.
All of that. And we all feel, you know, the other stressor that is really, really common. I mean, we're all running around buying Christmas gifts for as many people as we can think of.
Or Ford.
And therein is the stressor and the problem. There's way too many of us who don't ask, can we afford to do this?
Right.
Okay? We just slap the plastic down when we're in Walmart and call it good. That is all stressor. And some of that stress is going to be delayed when you start getting those bills after the first of the year.
Not to take a side road here, but I got a good question for both of you guys. You know, the nature of what Thanksgiving and Christmas, the holiday season, was designed for was for family to get together, to love on one another, to spend time with one another, and somehow or in some way, to me, it's become so plastic and so twisted that it's almost completely different than what it was initially designed for. I mean, you go back to the even 40s, the 30s, the 20s, it's not even a reflection of what it is a century later in our society. And I think it has to do with ultra consumerism in our society. I think it has to do with, like, you know, our economy. Right now our economy's, you know, so there are all these reasons to be stressful. But if we go back to remembering what the reason for the season actually is, and it's not about buying gifts, and it's not about, you know, doing all these extra things. It's just like, you know, isn't there a point where you're like, okay, look, let's just enjoy this time where we have with our family. Remember the reason for the season. It's about coming together. It's about enjoying one another's company. Is that what do you guys think? Is that why it's the way it is now?
Thanksgiving was founded as a celebration and giving thanks. And sorry to the atheists out there. It was giving thanks to the good Lord for the harvest and the bounty that we have received. We were an agrarian society when that was founded.
And that we'll make it through the winter.
And that's what it was about.
Yeah.
Okay? That's all it was about. And it wasn't about a holiday parade down the middle of Times Square. It was about giving thanks for the bounty we have received and acknowledging some people who helped us get there. That's what Thanksgiving was. Christmas. Do I really need to say what Christmas was founded on? It's a celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. No, we don't really know where on the calendar that occurred. We don't. We have scholars who say it probably happened during summer. Okay, fine. But the early church said this is the time that we're going to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, who is the foundation of the Christian religion. That's what these things are about. So ask yourself, can you celebrate these things without running up your credit card debt? My answer, yes.
Yeah.
But you got to do some things. You know, in our home, basically when my first son was born, we started setting up the rules of Christmas in our home. Okay? And that means that we're not going to put up some big elaborate display of lights out there. Now my son has decided he wants to put lights on our house. Great. So what?
If that's what gives them enjoyment.
That's not what Christmas is about. Okay? It has nothing to do with it. So we're not going to spend our treasure on that. And the other rule that we set, well, I tell you what, I'm going to make some people frustrated today. Jesus Christ received 3 gifts when he was in the manger. My children received 3 gifts. That's it.
Do you give them gold, frankincense, and
no?
Sorry,
No.
Dry joke. I'm not really a comedian, but
and you know,
Keep your day job, bro.
it's my wife and I who decide whether we can what we can afford for each one of these kids. We take that number, we split it up, and we're like, this is the best we can do. And you know that our kids can choose to be happy or they can choose to be disappointed. Most of the time, they choose to be happy.
Well, if your option is
because
nothing or
they've
3
been
things.
taught since birth what Christmas is about.
Yeah.
It's not about the new American girl that's under the tree. By the way, I've never given that. I've given.
Well, you'd have to stab
Other
somebody
stuff.
at your local Walmart to get there.
You know?
Andy, okay, so Andy, just quickly, why do you think, is it incorrect perception of mine to say that it has changed or that it's not, because, you know, I wasn't living 100 years ago, but that this, why is it that this time of year has become so stressful when it's supposed to be a time of giving and enjoying and family and love and forgiveness? And
I think we need to cancel it.
yeah, cancel
just
her.
cancel
Cancel
it.
culture.
Yeah,
Andy is the cancel culture guy.
Doggone Columbus killing Indians and
Oh yeah,
all that good stuff, and you know all that stuff.
Thanksgiving's
We need
just
to
go
say,
bye-bye.
Our history is so bad, we just need to get rid of it.
All right.
No.
On that note,
No, you know, that's very interesting. I don't put a lot of pressure on myself, frankly. I think it's individual choice. I used to, and I just had conversations with people that I love and care about. I'm very blessed that Stacy really does. She'll hate that I even said her name on here. Go all out for the kiddos. I don't worry about any of that stuff. That's something she enjoys to do.
yeah.
Frankly, my kids enjoy Christmas and Thanksgiving and all that stuff. I don't really feel the pressure because I've set boundaries, and I communicate to people what I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do. I don't do anything that you don't have to do anything. And so once you have those conversations with people and you're just honest about it and people know where you're at, you do what you choose to do. And is it somewhat selfish sometimes? Yeah. But I'm at a point in my life now that I've had to come to Jesus talks with people, and I've tried to do the things that I felt was right. And if it's not reciprocated, I don't worry about it. like zero worry about it, because life is too short. We've got too much going on. And frankly, I've got a pretty crazy situation where I don't mind working every day. It's not something I hate to do. I get to do it. And it's like playing with your favorite toy every single day. So for me, it's not a stressor. I don't do the gift thing I'm not a gifter anyways. That's not my love language or one of my love languages. I try my best to appreciate when people do it for me. I'm an acts of service guy, and sometimes you have to have an act of service for yourself by giving yourself some space and some grace and letting people know around you this is not the season for that. I'm not buying things that I don't think I should not be buying. I'm not overspending on anything. My kids don't ask me for stuff because they know that I'm not the person to ask for things. And so for me, it's not that bad. I mean, I miss my family. I missed the San Antonio vibe during Christmas. It's a very special thing for me personally. But I am aware that there are lots of people. I sent out 2 text messages Thanksgiving Day to people that I figured didn't have what I had that day. Just to let them know that they're loved, cared about, being thought of, and that I was open for a phone call if they had some time. And both responded. Had a phone call with one of them. The other one just said thanks very much. And that's the kind of stuff I choose to do. That was like who was placed on my heart that day to contact. And during our Thanksgiving prayer, I actually prayed for everybody there. I don't know how many people took action on it to do the same. And that's all you can do. And so for me, I'm grateful to be in a position to do that in my life and to be aware enough where I'm okay with those boundaries when I set them. So yeah, I don't get caught up in the stuff. I understand consumerism. I think it's a big problem. All the marketing schemas and the Black Friday craze. And, for some people turn it into fun, and that's fine. But I don't know how much fun you have when you spend $2,000 you don't have to spend come 3 months later. I refuse
with everybody over that parking spot.
I refuse to get into that world.
Place in line, fighting with everybody
because
over where they're going to be, what they're going to do.
That stress is going to come out.
Yeah. Okay,
so I'm going to take one hat off and I'm going to put the other hat on.
Right on.
That stress is going to come out, and if I could say something to parents, that stress is coming out. Your kids are going to feel it. No matter how much you try and hide it, no matter how much you try and poo-poo it, your kids are going to feel it. And straight up, I'm tired of being in the intake room on Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yep.
My heart weeps for the kids that I see on Christmas Day. And I know why they're there. Okay? I've been doing this for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and looked. 7 years. And I haven't spent every single Christmas Day in the intake room, but I've spent the majority of them there. And all the cases that have come to me on Christmas Day have something in common. And it's all that they started with some kind of a disagreement with mom and dad on Christmas Day. That stress is coming out, folks. And in the worst case scenario, there are crimes committed as a result of it. So, we have a drive-by shooting in the early morning hours of Thanksgiving. The stress is coming out, people. I'm making a huge assumption on that, but I'm just saying.
It's a communication piece. It is exactly what it is.
There's stress coming out, and it's unfortunate. And, this time of year is horrible for suicides. At one time, they used to say that it was the worst time of year, but that was just kind of an unfounded statement. But it is bad this time of year. And again, I don't like sitting with kids trying to figure out what to do with them and where to go with them because mommy just committed suicide. This stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so collectively, we, the adults in the room, and whether you're in this room or not, if you're an adult, you're the adult in the room, you need to figure out how to prevent that crap from going on. So, if I'm on your Christmas list, I don't want nothing.
I'm gonna take that Ferrari back down.
So that's fine. I mean, seriously, I don't want nothing. I just
I'll
went
take
through
it.
this with a birthday.
Sorry, Andy, not
I'll
this
trade it
year.
in for a bucket truck and a couple cars.
yeah. I just went through this with a birthday. I have a birthday that falls very close to the holidays. Some years it falls on a holiday, others it doesn't. And I kept telling everybody, I don't want anything. I don't want anything. I don't want anything. Because honestly, materially, I don't. Right? You wanna celebrate my birthday? It's a phone call that just says, "Hey man, I'm thinking about you. Happy birthday."
Speaking of that, Chad, surely you got my message where I sang you happy birthday because you didn't answer the phone.
I did. I did.
I put on my best happy birthday.
Yeah. He sounded like Marilyn Monroe.
Did you do a good job?
I
Yeah.
tried. Yeah, I tried.
me that
Yeah,
recording.
and I
Yeah, I'm ruined.
I
I'm ruined
really
now.
tried to envision Lance with like the blonde wig. and
Oh,
Oh
hair.
yeah.
Man.
Oh yeah. I mean, hey,
It didn't work.
didn't work. Some lipstick on.
Oh man.
Hey, it's
So-
all good in the hood.
Yeah.
All right, Chad. So speaking of drive-bys and the things that are going on, what other sensational things have transpired over this week that you'd like to tell everybody about?
Fire in the sky, my friend. Fire in the sky. I don't know how many people saw it, but there was an actual fireball that was visible all the way down into Oklahoma.
Really?
That passed right over Harvey County.
Huh.
So if I was standing on my front porch, I could look out and I see this.
If you'd have been out there at about 1:15 on the 2nd, you could have seen the fireball. And there's,
Broad daylight.
The
And
Cold
there's-
War went hot.
Yeah,
and-
I'm surprised we didn't have
and
911.
believe
calls
it
out
or
of
not,
that deal.
there is video of the fire in the sky.
Really?
And it occurred during the day, so it was a pretty intense deal.
Maybe that's why we didn't have more attention on it because it was during the day.
It was.
people
It
were
was.
busy.
People weren't looking for it. You know, but what that was it was a meteorite,
I thought it was a Chinese balloon. That's
And
what
it-
I heard.
yeah. and it-
nuclear war.
and it broke up, and then it scattered bits and pieces of itself all over the
Allegedly.
place.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
Gotta put that in.
supposedly. Hell, it could have been an alien crashing.
I think it's
Sure. Well, the
Not to make light of what Chad is talking about,
yeah.
of course.
So I talked to a meteorite hunter from UCLA
Dang.
on this one, because I mean he's one of the top in the country.
Wow.
To be straight,
the real deal.
he's the real deal.
Does he believe in aliens? I just gotta know that.
No,
He's probably a Secret Service, FBI
Chad
kind of
wouldn't know.
So-
he wouldn't tell
black
him.
suit.
Yeah, he
the guy
wouldn't tell
shows up with the zapper glasses.
He's like, look, all it was a meteor. I'm a meteorite hunter.
Yeah.
But really,
I believe it.
I'm
Dude,
there.
they're out there.
Tell your friends, folks.
Yeah.
Alien
So,
crash
I mean-
course in Harvey County.
And the reason that he wanted to talk to me, and quite honestly, I wanted to talk to him too, was I wanted to find out what we might be in for as a result of this whole thing. And bottom line, there is a community that hunts these things and collects these things, and they pay money for these things.
Wow.
And with what they believe is the size of this thing, we can expect people to start coming to hunt.
Really?
What is the bullseye, Chad? Tell them where they're supposed to go. Because, I mean, how much can you get for this thing?
Come downtown Newton, spend your money,
Yeah.
shop.
Yeah.
Come to Newton, get a hotel.
We'll send this right over to UCLA,
Yes.
dude.
Yes.
At this,
Black suit.
At this
We are ready for you.
At this point, estimates for what would be a fair price for pieces of this meteorite are between $50 and $100 a gram.
Yes.
So if you go on the high side at $100 a gram, if you were to find a meteorite rock
24
about a
grams
pa-
to an ounce.
of
36
about
ounces to
yeah,
a key.
Yeah.
Boy, that's gonna be some cash.
Yeah,
Go find a couple keys of
you're
that,
looking at
boy.
something like you're looking
Flipping
at about,
birds real quick.
you're looking at about $50,000 a pound.
Wow.
Which is 16 ounces.
So you don't have to find
My
something very
conversion rates
big.
are still pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's some serious money that we're that you could be talking about. So that's why he thinks, and I gotta say I agree with that kind of money floating around.
Yeah, people.
That we might be seeing people coming from all over to go look for meteorites, and that means that you're going to have people coming from all over that are going to be doing things like trespassing on farm ground. Right?
Got to take the negative spin.
Well,
on it,
but
Chad.
and this is I mean, and straight up, this is how he handles it when he shows up. He went to a place in Texas that was probably about the same size of event that this one was, and he negotiates. He says, "I want to." He spent a whole bunch of time looking at Doppler radar, so he's got a pretty good idea where stuff is at. He's like, I want to go check that field over there. I'll pay you, and he'll give him a rate, a per gram rate, for whatever he finds.
Like basically, I give you 10% of my findings.
Exactly, and that's what he wants people to be doing. He wants people to be
like
negotiating.
The meteor mafia.
Yeah, he wants people to be negotiating.
The Dawn.
And you know,
the Meteor Dawn.
straight up. All these farmers the farmers in our area, if I want to go deer hunting, they have two answers for me when I ask. One is no. That's the most used answer. No. Okay. Even if I want to go shoot geese that are eating their wheat, the answer is no. The other answer is this much an acre. So that's all he's won. He wants people prepared to understand, and he wants them to know that we're going to probably have people coming that are going to want on your property. So be prepared for what your answers are going to be. Your answers could be, no, I want my grandkids to go find it. That's fine. Or your answer could be, well, you know, you're going to be selling these for, what, $100 a gram? I think I should get about 50 of that. And negotiate. So, I mean, I have a lot of respect for this dude because that's his motivation.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
He wants to try and come, but he doesn't know if he can get here for several weeks.
I want to see the video of this thing.
There is video on the Kansans website.
No, there's not.
There is.
Oh, my word.
Are you able to post it like after a certain amount of time on the website on social media at all? Then we can steal it from you and reshare it later?
Well, it's where I found it was on what was the name of the website?
Oh, don't give it away. Make them come to your site.
Yeah, if you want to see
found
it, go to the
I found it
Kansas.
on a website which has a statement that media can post with the following credits.
That's cool.
So I'm going to observe the rules, right?
All right,
You
right
know,
on,
it's
yeah.
not like I'm going to throw it on my own.
Well, send me a text if you
YouTube
if you
channel.
Go to
post
the
that, and
Kansas.
I'll jump
Yeah.
on it.
Go to the Kansan and look it up, and
Yeah.
you'll see the video. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You know, so.
So there's video, and you
I'm
know,
going to do that, and then I'm going to rip it.
I'll be
and
straight.
sell it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
download it. Not give any disclaimers to it. Thanks, Chad. Thank
and the
you for
video
that.
is not. I'll be honest. The video is not what I would say is overwhelming, but
You see, they're all like that. It was.
You can
I'm telling
definitely see the quote fireball. You know, and I think I'm not going to speak to where the guy who shot the video was at. Because I don't have that ingrained in my memory bank hard enough. But I don't think they were even in Kansas when they shot the video.
I'm just going to leave this right here. All my conspiracy people, you know what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Dude,
2025 is
even the way they
invasion.
contacted you and got
Oh,
ahead
yeah.
of it. Oh, they're so good.
Yeah, they're good. They're smart. They must watch the program.
Well, you know, and you know, when I was first contacted about this, I was like, really? But then I started doing legitimate research, right? Because, you know, way too often in our lives,
Undercovergov.org.
yeah, way too often in our lives, people are saying, go do your research, but they have no idea what credible research really is.
Right.
So, the first thing I did was check this guy out and make sure he was who he said he was. And he is. So that's number one. And then it's going to places like Scientific American, NASA. I mean,
Okay, so just speaking of what you said about credible research, I just want to let everybody know we're going to cover something at the end of the program that has to do with credible research and some events that have unfolded at a national level that might be very interesting to a lot of you. So stay on the program to hear what we have to say. Moving on now, if you don't have any other local things that you guys would like to talk about.
I'm good.
Okay, so I'm sure everybody heard two things this week. One, that the Biden administration had instructed the Border Patrol to begin cutting razor wire here a little while back at the border to stop both states and any progression of trying to shore up our border to prevent people coming in from the Mexican side over into the United States side. Court blocked Biden's order. And they're no longer able to cut razor wire. So I would just look into that. If you didn't know that was happening, that there is a big controversy still going on at the border, that there's an attempt for states to intervene and take control of that. It's a legal battle right now, and that surprisingly, and I was surprised to hear it, that the executive branch instructed. I believe it was the Border Patrol to go through and begin cutting the razor wire down and opening up areas so migrants could cross. And I felt like that's very counterproductive, but I want you to do your own research on that. And then a major topic that we wanted to cover and has been getting a lot of attention is the executive order, which allowed for Hunter Biden, who is Joe Biden's son, to be pardoned. I did some research on this, but I want to get your guys' thoughts, and I did quite a bit of research on it. So I don't know if you guys did, but I want to get your guys' thoughts about what you think about that, and then I've got some other things to add to that. What is your initial feeling about President Joe Biden, pardoning his own son for crimes that he had been found guilty of by a jury?
So for me, that's easy. I mean, especially when you say feelings. I mean, I understand the topic. I understand jumping on it and the discussions that are going on. I see it popping up everywhere in my feeds. It may be my algorithms because of my personal leanings. But unless my son molested a child or raped a woman, if I can help him get out of a situation, I'm probably going to do it. So on a human perspective, me personally, I'm not shocked at that. I mean, I can't think of me not trying to do everything I can to get my son and help my son out of a situation if I could. Especially my personal son, my dude, knowing who he is and my responsibility to him, which is my life. I'm not surprised about that. What I am surprised about is usually pardons are very specific, and this one has been blanketed back to 2014, which interestingly enough is right when Hunter Biden got on the Burisma board. And so it blankets all of that. It's just a huge dragnet of pardon. Yeah. So neither here nor there, if there was some involvement from the big guy, from the messages that have been put out publicly that are real, getting 10% of activities, financial activities, all that's gone.
Yeah.
And so did he pardon him because it's his boy, or did he pardon him for two reasons? And that's stuff we will never know. But at the end of the day, it's it is what it is, man. It's politics. I get it. On a human level, I understand him pardoning his son. I'd probably do the same thing for my boy. Again, just barring a couple of those issues that I put on the table. But politicians do what they do. And if I was Hunter Biden, I would be leveraging the card of, if you don't help me, I'm taking all of us with me. And so why would you not pardon somebody that has that much that could really take you to the house and just really destroy your family name and your legacy any more than it's already been hurt.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my 2 cents on it.
Chad, what do you think?
Hold on just a second. I got a text.
Okay.
I have to head to the intake room.
Right now?
In 30, I have to be there within 30 minutes.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Chad's.
so I just need to respond so that they don't just keep hunting.
All right. Okay. On this note, I'll
Well,
read a little bit of the.
Here's the
pardon.
deal. He's not the first. He's definitely not the first president to pardon a family member.
Yeah,
Not even remotely close.
Chad, okay, and here's my research. You are correct in your statement. You are correct in your statement. He is not the only one that has pardoned a family member. In fact, I wanted to get into this on that because what you said. I'm watching the we'll call it right-wing pundits, and they are over the moon over this. They're over the barrel over there. They just are so enthralled that,
Of course
that
they are.
Biden would pardon his son. But it's hypocritical because just with very little investigation, you can find out that one of the people that Trump pardoned before he left office the first time was his son-in-law's father. And people will say, "Oh, well, that's different. That's different. That's different." You know, all this, but it's almost like I put out a post with a laughing face that said Hunter Biden pardons his son, and I'm sure people could look at that. I wanted people to interpret that however they would, project onto that and interpret that as a lesson once again, right? But it's this idea that what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. And I don't know if people have heard this statement before, but basically what that is if it's okay for one, it needs to be okay for the other. And if it's not okay for one, then even if it's the person that you love, like, and adore, it's not right there either. So if you're somebody that thinks what Joe Biden did is wrong by pardoning his son, then likewise, if you're a forever Trumper, you need to consider the fact that Trump did the same thing. And then upon more investigation, what you find, and I'll just throw out some real interesting facts, Obama pardoned almost 2,000 people when he was leaving office, which was the most pardons that any president had ever given out. And before that, George Bush Jr., I'll call him that, was given out the least amount of pardons at 200. And this goes back to, interestingly enough, the farther back you get, the more presidential pardons would be similar to if Biden were to pardon Trump. Okay? So ask yourself the question, should Biden pardon Trump? And I could go on with this for a while in monologue.
It depends on what we're talking about for that pardon, because the Constitution has only one exemption to the president's ability to issue a pardon.
Well, and that would be treason.
No. Impeachment.
Okay, understood.
That's
Understood.
the only thing
Can't
that
override,
he cannot.
That's correct.
That is
yeah.
the only thing that he cannot pardon is an impeachment.
Can't override the
So and
Congress has
that's
done.
a very important thing to consider here, right? I mean, to your point, if it's good for one, it's good for the other. Well, what's the Constitution say about this?
Well,
The Constitution says that the president has the right to pardon anybody for anything other than an impeachment.
But then what happens when the reason for impeachment has now been pardoned? So therefore, if all of these things have been pardoned that then cause the impeachment, similar to what happened in the judiciary it's a slippery slope. And
it is, but you put lawyers in this, right? And just think you're in an exit plan. So he's exiting the White House. He has attorneys that are looking at everything and anything that could possibly go wrong after they leave the White House. And with the climate and the temperature of things right now, the attorneys are going to overthink the worst case scenario, as they should. That's their job.
Yes.
And when you hand out a pardon, when they're looking at Joe Biden's attorneys and the people that are doing their job to protect him, whether they like it or not, they're going to have to do the best job they can at keeping him safe after he leaves that office with all the things that are hanging in the air. And a pardon for Hunter, because there's so much possible reach through with some of the things that have been established and things that have been talking about that have been put out in the ether. That to me, when you get to that level and you've got that many, you have all those factors. To me, it's not a hard play. I think most people put in that position, giving legal advice, would do what they had to do. to protect themselves, their family, and their net worth, their future inheritances for others. So at the end of the day, again, and Jill's going to be involved with those decisions too, because it's her family and some of that's her money too.
Yeah.
And she has people, I'm sure, that love her and care about her that she wants to take care of even when she's gone. These aren't real hard calls to me. I think we kind of zoom in on the feelings, and I love that you started it, what you're feeling. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, until you're in those positions and you carry that weight, most people have no idea what those kind of decisions look like. I mean,
but prepping myself for it, Andy, I got to say, prepping myself for it, and you guys know my personal life, I'm not pardoning nobody. I'm not using my position to pardon my family. To me, that's unethical. If my child, as much as I love him, decides that they're going to make a decision that is of criminal in nature, then they have to be responsible just like I would or anybody else would. That's my belief in the rule of law. I've never got no freebies. If I did something I wasn't supposed to do, then I was responsible for that. And I don't believe that it builds character or integrity of any kind to come along and say, well, I'm going to use my position that I have to be able to throw some love over here to my child, especially an immediate family member. And that's just me. And I'm not, and I'm just saying that's my initial feeling. I mean, I suppose people could argue and say, well, wait till you're in that position and then you can decide. But the truth of the matter is I take the moral high ground. If it's something, it doesn't matter. I mean, it could be the person that is nearest and dearest to my heart that I love. And I believe so strongly in not being a hypocrite and doing what's right, that I'm not going to cover up. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to try to excuse that person needs to walk through the process. And it's by a jury of their peers, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And to me, it's
I wish I could say it that
epitome of
confidently
cronyism
for me.
But I've walked it out, Andy. You know that I have walked similar situations out in my life that I'm just not going to participate in that.
Yeah. I can't. I wish I could say that. I can't. I mean, again, barring my child molesting a kid or raping somebody, I'm about 99% sure I'm going to pull them out of a situation if I could. And that's just, maybe that's a character fall for me, but I could see myself doing it. I can sit in that chair and going, yeah, I'm not hating on the guy. I get it. Where I have a hard time is the undertow. Because I believe there are some people that are so sick out there, they really don't even look at the impact of their child. They look at what's going to go on with me if this decision is made. And that's where I get kind of icky, knowing that that's a real world out there.
That's a real world.
Let me throw something into that concept. If it were about protecting yourself, a pardon is the worst thing you can do. Again, in my opinion. And the reason for that is this. With that pardon, your son can never face a criminal charge or an indictment for that incident. So if he's called to the stand to testify, does he have a right to the Fifth Amendment? The whole basis of the Fifth Amendment is that you're not going to testify because you do not want to be indicted yourself. He can't be indicted.
Right. All the way back to 2014 on anything. It's a big blanket.
it's
so it's just kind of like,
it's broad.
Well, and then the reports came out that I think what most people, at least this is the way a lot of people are viewing. Of course, you have the one that I talked about, which is you have your people that think, well, no offense, there people think like Andy, right? I mean, we know there's a history of this taking place on numerous accounts throughout history, going all the way back, okay, to our very first president. I mean, it's the truth, right? So then when we have another group of people that think that it's absolutely wrong that this took place because it's Biden, because it's Hunter, and they're criminals, but yet it's okay if Trump does it. Then you have people like me that are like, well, I just think it's really cronyism and it's unethical and it's not okay, just stinks of hypocrisy. And then it goes into this government overlord and elitists and, hey, if I know somebody, then I'm gonna get excused for this, while we have thousands of people locked up all over the country for possession of a certain drugs, because we go back to the war on drugs with Ray. I mean, let's just being real, we could really unpack that, but I want people to think about this from all different angles and all different ways before you, and check your own biases. That's the big one. Okay. So, what a lot of people are talking about, and I found it was interesting that, of course, your right-wing news pundits are, oh, this is so bad, this is so horrible, no mention of Trump. But then your left wing are actually likewise coming out and saying that the major issue was not that Biden pardoned Hunter, it was that he said he wasn't going to do it. So now he's dishonest. But then I see something this morning that talks about how, well, it really wasn't what Biden wanted to do, but Jill wanted him to do it. So we're in this big mess. And of course, the whole world gets to look at that, experience, say their own opinion, formulate their own opinion, come to their own conclusion, and we're free to do that. But I will say, like what Chad said too, it's very lucrative. It's very lucrative. It just goes back to the statement that I made last week about First Amendment protected rights for immigrants. And I was trying to dig in my brain. It bothered me so bad. I went home, I researched it, and there is nothing absolute. I made an absolute statement to say, a blanket statement, that people who were here that were not U.S. citizens were not protected by our First Amendment speech rights. And the conclusion is that, well, in some cases they are, in some cases they're not. And then, like Chad had mentioned, when I called Chad, I was like, Chad, I feel like I just gave incorrect information, and it's important to me to cover this, and it just kind of feeds into this. But the truth of the matter is you do the research, and it's like, well, that just depends on how the Supreme Court interprets it,
and what part of the country you're in, and who your peers are, and what type of court you're going to, and how that's going to be weighed out, and their strategy in those big courts around all of that. So
the judiciary is not supposed to be political, folks. Just remember that.
Man, I wish that
never was
the way
designed
it was,
to be political,
but it totally is.
Oh, it completely is.
Today, absolutely.
And how do we bring that back as a community?
I'm sorry to say there is no bringing it back. With the system that we have set up that allows for presidents to make the appointments to the Supreme Court, and for all intents and purposes, they have lifelong positions that cannot be influenced. They really have to screw the pooch if to be doing something completely unethical, completely dishonest in some way.
But the buck doesn't stop at the presidency.
True, because there is Senate confirmation.
Yes.
But how many times throughout history, and I'm not going to say an absolute, but I'm just going to ask the question. Look it up, folks. How many times throughout history has a presidential nomination for the Supreme Court not been approved through the Senate?
You want me to name one?
Yes, because I think it was in recent history.
Merrick Garland, President Obama, wouldn't do it because he was a, quote, lame duck and there wasn't time.
Where he wouldn't make an appointment.
No, he made the appointment.
But yet the Senate
Mitch
decided.
McConnell torpedoed that.
Interesting. Well, I mean, as long as the Republicans are doing it.
Torpedo, that sounded aggressive.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
aggressive.
that's what happened.
Yeah.
Oh, and as long, and I'll say
what
this:
happened.
as long as it's happening against Obama and the Democrats, then it's fine.
Oh, that was fine.
Yes,
that was fine.
But now,
and then then you get down into the final months of a Republican presidency, and we ram that sucker through as fast as we can.
I'm telling you, it goes.
And it's because but he could get reelected. Okay, I'm sorry. The standard was.
Oh, that was
the term was ending.
That was the out.
But do you realize with what you're saying that 90% of people don't understand that process and how that's working?
No,
Can you believe that?
They have no clue.
I mean, I hate to fault the educational system, but just the other day, my son was yesterday, education. Okay. Love education, fan of education. I am a fan of education. I'll say this. Public education. Well, depends on, I was for the closure of Walton because the dollars and the cents didn't make sense, but hey,
maybe they need to go,
then, right?
Maybe they need to go up into Walton and start hunting for rocks and
Right. Hey.
see how many they can find on that old school property and bring the school back after.
There you go. All you need is 20 grams of a meteorite. And,
you're gonna need a lot more than that, but
Might pay for the water bill for 1 month.
Okay, so I was talking to my son, and it was like, okay, this year, because of the amount of money that you've made and everything, you're going to need to file taxes. Well, I don't know how to file taxes. I'm like, well, most people don't know how to file taxes, buddy. That's why, we go and we take it to somebody to file taxes. So I got to pay somebody to file my taxes because I don't know how to do it. And I said, yeah, most of us do. I mean, you don't have to. If it's simple, you can do the TurboTax thing. You can do things that are simple. You can file your own taxes if it's consistent, legit. I mean, you can almost go to a tax person, copy and paste it over year to year.
It depends on how many forms you have, man. If you don't have very many forms, you can stop by the public library, get a 1040 easy, and be done in 20 minutes.
And I think that's the route we're going to take with him. But it was interesting because his first response was, I'm so sick and tired of all of these things that I know I have to learn and do, and school doesn't teach me any of it. Why don't they teach tax preparation? Why don't they teach how to do this or that or something
because we're too busy with,
gender affirming care?
We're too busy with algebra. We're too busy with algebra.
Well, there is an element of us prepping children in the K through 12 system to go on to college. I agree. that we are starting to change the way we look at that. Newton is doing a great job with the CTE program. By the way, I'm going to have some of those instructors out here and have a Harvey County talk with them.
Let's get the kid who made his own putter.
Yeah. That type of ingenuity, that type
I
of...
want one of those, by the way.
Well, and he's got it to where out Sand Creek Station, if I read that correctly, that you can purchase one maybe. I don't know that 100%, but yeah, I mean, kudos to those kids. My son is a part of something in the CTE program as well, and there was an individual, and I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but there was an individual that designed something, came to the CTE program and said, hey, we want you to build this for me. Write this code. Put one of these, put a prototype through. Build the blueprint so that way, once you guys do it and we know that this is what we want, then I can take it over to a manufacturing facility, which in this case is here locally, and then they can produce them and then we can sell them because there's a market for this invention that I created. Okay? So they're moving and shaking there. I mean, they are doing some amazing things with our CTE program, and we are filling a need. But once again, K through 12 is designed for children for college. Still, the question then becomes, why is there not more attention put on basic life skills? So that's maybe a conversation for another day, however it might be. I don't know how I got into the weeds the way I did here, but just speaking of, once again, the situation with Joe Biden and the pardoning of Hunter before we move on to the next situation, I'm going to make a statement. I believe that the reason we see so many entities such as left-leaning media or the Democrat Party turning their back on Biden is justification for their loss. So, because it's so known in our country and community, and this really is the way people think, that people don't vote for candidates, they vote against candidates. So if there was a loss and people were voting for Trump based upon the not wanting the types of policies that they were seeing coming out of the Biden administration, then now the Democrat Party is distancing themselves from that in an effort to be able to just place a face to the loss, which is Biden, obviously. So they wanted to separate all of it. Now they're wanting to hang it all on his head and why they didn't win, et cetera, et cetera. So, just be thinking about this through this filter, folks, that as we watch this stuff unfold and we watch the justification for why Trump did get elected versus Kamala Harris, just think about it from the perspective that people may not necessarily have been voting for Trump, but more against Kamala. And you're going to watch that. It's prophetic. Okay, so sorry for my monologue. If you guys want to comment on anything I've said so far, feel free to do so. If not, I've got one more biggie that I think a lot of people are going to want to talk about.
Well, and real quick on that, I think people voted against Trump, and that's why Kamala got a big slew of votes, because Trump is just who he is in some people's mind's eye, and that's what it is going to be. But I think a lot of people voted for Trump because they wanted Trump. There's a big difference in my mind there.
A lot of Democrats voted for Trump.
I know several, just because of the extremism. And when you start playing these games where you're talking about men getting pregnant, and then you start tying it in and weaving it in with the trans and all that, the people are just like, they're done with that. That's just too much. And you know, when you're normalizing things that frankly aren't normal, it's just weird, and people just, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and people suffered the economy.
And people are doubling down on that stuff.
Yep.
And it's just like, hey, you know, at the end of the day, the consequences are what they are. When you say Biden is okay, and all the news pundits and all these people are saying he's fine, he's never been sharper.
You're watching it.
And then when it deteriorates in your face,
yeah.
and I can go after event when we were told all of these things, and they just imploded on themselves every which way, and now they're looking to blame, taking zero responsibility, and they're eating each other right now.
They are.
In a lot of ways. And when I'm looking at this I'm going, man, that is horrible. And so I hope they get it together for the greater good of our country in the long run. And the Republicans side of the House better get some stuff done, because there's not too many excuses right now.
There are none.
Yeah. So ready, set, go. We're going to know in 2 years from now if this was all real or another big staged out game. And I'm curious to see what the outcome is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm hopeful, but pessimistic.
Yep. Same. I just had that conversation with somebody the other day. Chad, what do you think? Anything before we move on to the next topic?
Other than I gotta go, no.
Okay.
So I mean, I got an intake that just hit. So I mean,
Chad, if you got to get out of here, man, we can say sayonara.
So I have no details as to what I'm walking into. I'm just gonna walk in there and do my best.
All right, man. Thank you for serving, dude.
Yeah,
Go handle that business.
Take it easy, Chad.
So have a great day, guys.
Right on. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. Sorry, man. Have a good day.
Hey, it is
Duty calls. So, okay, last thing, Andy, that I want to discuss just has to do with this. I don't know if you've been paying attention or seen anything on the national media, but if anybody knows who Dinesh D'Souza is.
Oh, yeah.
Dinesh D'Souza was the creator of 10,000 Mules. Mm-hmm. And
I bought and watched.
Yep, and it come to find out, it's all coming out that, I'm not going to fault Dinesh D'Souza absolutely 100%, but it turns out that information, where he was getting his information, was not credible.
Yeah, that's horrible.
In fact, interestingly enough, I want to read something real quick. It says, this is from the AP. It said, the publisher of 2,000 Mules issued a statement Friday apologizing to a Georgia man who was shown in the film and falsely accused of ballot fraud during the 2020 election. Moving on, it turns out that there was a recording of him dropping off 5 ballots to a ballot drop box, and then that was confirmation of him in partaking in election fraud. It turns out that it was actually his ballot, his wife's ballot, and 3 other people that live in his home. So, with that being said, there was nothing wrong with what he was doing. He was absolutely 100% complete above par, and was put in a movie, Andy, that he was a crook.
Yeah, there was a lot of them though, and so I got to look into that.
Yeah.
I will say that it bothers me a lot to hear that. I don't know enough about it yet to have an opinion on it, because I bought that, I watched it, and it infuriated me, and it made me believe, even more so than I already did, thinking something was weird with the elections, that they got us.
Yeah.
With where I stand politically. And at the end of the day, hearing that, there's some sketchy stuff around Dinesh, and I don't know if it's a hit piece. I don't know if it's I hope that they're following up with people that are on some of those films and going to court and finding out what really happened, because there were people that showed up with bags of ballots and dropped them in there. Yeah. And I don't know how to explain all that, because it wasn't just a few people. I mean, I saw it myself, and I hope that they're tracking these people down and letting due process take its course.
So just in understanding that this is coming from Dinesh D'Souza and the organization in which he was using to cite. So let's go back to credible source. Okay, it would be like me reading a blog post. I mean, we'll just go from this high level to small here. Yeah. I'm reading a blog post, and I come out on the program and I say, don't you know that the PAC that was involved in supporting Republicans in this most recent primary is really a left-wing Democrat front group?
Right.
Okay. You can't really find any other information on that. There's nothing really saying that's credible, but yet, because somebody was able to pick something out of the internet, right, and it was a blog post,
right,
that they wanted to confirm some reason why that would be bad and we could criticize, the whole thing. Okay. So then, oh, well, I'm sorry. It turns out that it really wasn't credible information. That's kind of what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
So then the question then becomes integrity, because it's like, well, you should have known that this wasn't necessarily a credible source. If this is the only source that you found that said this, if everything else tells you that's not the case, but you choose to take your own biased approach to it and believe what you want to believe and to go search for something that's going to confirm what you believe. I mean, this is everyday operating propaganda that we deal with, not only on a local level, but a state level and a national level, Andy.
Yeah, on a local level, people just want to act like they know stuff. And I do more things than I even know about, ever since I've stepped closer into the public eye. And that's by choice, but, some of the narratives that get spun and passed along to these little chatty groups, as one guy said, babbling Betties, they go around and talk behind your back and act like everything's okay when you're in the room. Right. And when you're just taking everybody at face value for who they are, a guy like myself, and then when you start finding out that stuff is going on and how weak and scandalous people can be, at the end of the day, it all comes out. But yeah, this thing with Dinesh, I know that a lot of people hate him. I know that he has been in trouble in the past for giving too many donations. He actually went to prison, I believe. And he gave like $10,000 to a political campaign and gave another $10,000 to one person and another 10 to another person to give somebody like 30 grand for political donations. And that was found out, came out in court, and he ended up doing some time. I believe it's something like that, right? And that when you hear that story, it sounds like, yeah, you messed up. But he doesn't really take full responsibility for that. So that leaves the door open for me to question, did he just do a money grab because it was a hot topic? He put together this really creative video and I bought it. And I bought into it. Because when you see that, it's infuriating.
Well, and there's this, I go back to this, just being the critical thinker that I am. Yeah, there's probably an element of truth that takes place there. I mean, there is enough evidence to believe that quite potentially there was individuals that were playing foul.
100%.
So
happens every election,
and it does. So to say that it's not happening. Once again, we go back to these absolutes.
Right.
Oh, that would never happen. That didn't happen. That's not necessarily true. But then to say that it was what information was provided and then incited and then elevated and then elevated and then elevated. I mean, to a point in which it's all about making money, grabbing attention, getting yours out of the deal. Ends justify the means. Locally, it's so that one person that I support will get elected, but the other one won't. This is nothing new about our nature and our society, is it? No. I mean, it's very disheartening, man. I mean, it really is, in my opinion. Because I guess I'm honest.
Yeah, it's not new, and it's not going to stop. And matter of fact, I think it's getting more aggressive because people, they just want what they want to a point right now where they're willing to throw out a lot of stuff out the window, which is, there's times that I'm sure I read into things too far. I might manifest things that aren't all the way true, which I try to be careful with when I make assumptions about people because of experiences I've had with certain individuals. So I try to be gracious and understanding that I'm not perfect. But to go and flat out just try to rip somebody behind their backs, like some of the things that were done to me here recently, and knowing where it came from, but people are too scared to admit it because they know they're full of shit.
It's always coming from the same group of people, Andy.
Yeah, for sure.
That same little small group of people. That's
the thing, though. They've been identified, and I will confront it, and that is very obvious now. So I don't want to. The get out of jail free card has been given.
Yeah.
I have nothing to say about anybody in particular until they give me a reason, but I am watching and waiting for an opportunity, frankly. But right now I'm just going to sit back and do me and live my life and just keep a distance from people that I believe that I just don't want around me, or the people that I know. And if people ask me directly, I'll tell them what I have to tell them, but that's probably not going to happen. And I'm good with that too, but at the end of the day, I think it's our job as leaders to just separate the wheat from the chaff, as they say. Is that how they say it?
Yep.
Just do the best we can every single day. And all these things that come out, I'm out of curiosity, I'll nerd out on that just to see what's going on, because was the election stolen? I know there was cheating. When you look at media and how it's organized today, even up to recently when this was a close race, and there was some polls showing Kamala ahead by like 3 points in Pennsylvania, and she lost by 10. Right?
Yeah, and have you heard about the internal polling, that now they're in hot water with Democrat donors because their internal polling showed that she was never going to win, and they were going out and telling people that she had a chance, knowing that she was not looking very good, and instead of being honest and forthright, they kept getting them donors to give them money.
Yeah, they were dumping money into the machine that was never gonna. And if I wrote a check at the tail end of that of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and some of these people millions of dollars at that level, I'd be pissed off too. And you have some of the top donors from the Democratic Party right now just slamming the party itself.
Yeah,
and they are not. They're upset because they have an investment in some of that, and some of them invest because they have lobbies and people that are doing things that they need them to do for them for business purposes that may be thrown off a little bit right now. So there's a lot going on. At the end of the day, all I can do is all I can do. And I'm curious about that. I'm wondering what the penalty would be if Dinesh did. I don't know what his statements are personally.
Well, he's currently being sued.
Okay.
So I know there's that. And then, of course, dependent upon culpability and source, then there may be a lawsuit to the next entity where he got his information from. But at some point in time, where did somebody just take responsibility for it, Andy? I mean, it just drives me crazy.
Well, and now that there's legal going on, we won't hear the truth for a really long time, probably.
Yeah. Well, and
this will drag out for
years. And we may never hear the truth. There may be a non-disclosure agreement that I'll go out and give a statement that what I did was lie, and I'll pay a fine, and then that means that I'll settle out of court with you, and therefore I can protect my reputation. The legal aspect, I'm not an attorney.
But it'll smell, though.
Oh, it smells already.
It'll smell.
In my opinion, it smells already. And, I tell you that Trump coined the phrase correctly. I'll just say it, that it's time to drain the swamp. And that's both at a local level, at a state level, at a national level, that we really are starting to stink to a point in which we've got to figure out something somehow. We've got to drain it. It just has
no trust.
No, and I have no reason or belief to trust, anything anymore, which I think is so lucrative that's why we're in one of the issues that we're in. Okay, so we are coming to the end of the program. I just want to cover one more thing before we go. Have you ever heard of brain rot? The Oxford Dictionary's word of the year is brain rot. And it is defined as brain rot is the supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, especially viewed as the result of overconsumption of material, now particularly online content, considered to be trivial or unchallenging. So I'm going to say that again. Oxford Dictionary defines brain rot as the supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, especially viewed as the result of overconsumption of material, now particularly online content, considered to be trivial or unchallenging. What are you looking at, folks? Have a good week, everybody.